भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for joining today's class. We'll be continuing chapter 18. So, Canto 1, chapter 18, verse 3. Utsrijya sarvata sangam Vignat Vignatjita samstitihi Vayashakera jaho shishyo Gangayam swam kalevaram Utsrijya sarvata sangam Vignata jita samstitihi Vayasakera jaho shishyo Gangayam swam kalevaram Utsrijya sarvata sangam Vignata jita samstitihi Vayasakera jaho shishyo Gangayam swam kalevaram Utsrijya sarvata sangam Vignata jita samstitihi Vayasakir jaho shishyo Gangayam swam kalevaram. Word to word translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Utsrijya, after leaving aside, Sarvataha, all around, Sangam, association, Vijnata, being understood, Ajita, one who is never conquered, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Samsthitihi, actual position, Vayasakehe, unto the son of Vyasa, Jaho, gave up, Shishyaha, as a disciple, Gangayam, on the bank of the Ganges, Swam, his own, Kalevaram, material body. Translation. Furthermore, after leaving all his associates, the king surrendered himself as a disciple to the son of Vyasa, Shukadeva Goswami, and thus he was able to understand the actual position of the personality of Godhead. Purport. The word Ajita is significant here. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is known as Ajita or unconquerable, and he is so in every respect. No one can know his actual position. He is unconquerable by knowledge also. We have heard about his dham or place, eternal Golok Vrindavan, but there are many scholars who interpret this abode in different ways. But by the grace of a spiritual master like Shukadeva Goswami, unto whom the king gave himself up as a most humble disciple, one is able to understand the actual position of the Lord, his eternal abode, and his transcendental paraphernalia in that dham or abode. Knowing the transcendental position of the Lord and the transcendental method by which one can approach the transcendental dham, the king was confident about his ultimate destination. And by knowing this, he could leave aside everything material, even his own body, without any difficulty of attachment. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Param Drishtva Nivartate. One can give up all connection with material attachment when one is able to see the Param, or the superior quality of things. From Bhagavad Gita, we understand the quality of the Lord's energy that is superior to the material quality of energy. And by the grace of a bona fide spiritual master like Shukadeva Goswami, it is quite possible to know everything of the superior energy of the Lord, by which the Lord manifests his eternal name, quality, pastimes, paraphernalia, and variegatedness. Unless one thoroughly understands the superior or eternal energy of the Lord, it is not possible to leave the material energy. However, one may theoretically speculate on the true nature of the absolute truth. By the grace of Lord Sri Krishna, Maharaj Parikshit was able to receive the mercy of such a personality as Shukadeva Goswami, and thus he was able to know the actual position of the unconquerable Lord. It is very difficult to find the Lord from the Vedic literatures, but it is very easy to know him by the mercy of a liberated devotee like Shukadeva Goswami. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'm unqualified to be speaking here, but I will try to do my service to the best of my ability. In this verse, there are three main themes that have been expanded upon by Srila Prabhupada. And one of the main themes is the topic of Shishya, or ability to be humble enough to submit oneself to a guru and become a disciple. We see several examples in the Srimad Bhagavatam where this occurs, especially in the Bhagavad Gita as well, where Arjuna says, Shishyaste mam shadi prapan. He gives himself up to Krishna as a disciple. He made excellent points from different Vedic literatures and different nyaya or logic that he applied, and he presented them all to Krishna. And after presenting it, he submitted himself and was willing to be corrected by the living spiritual master in front of him. And here we see the same, in the same lineage, we see Parikshit Maharaj giving himself up to the son of Vyasa, or Shukadeva Goswami, on the bank of the Ganges, and that completely transforming his life. So yesterday and the previous classes, we've been listening to what the name Parikshit means. As Prabhu, you mentioned yesterday, it's Pari and Ikshanam. Ikshanam is to see. So literally translated, it means one who is an examiner. When we say Pariksha, it means an exam in Hindi and Sanskrit. Pariksha means exam. So Parikshit is one who examines, or examiner. And what is he examining? He's examining the one who protected him when in his mother's womb. So he's trying to examine, is this person Krishna? Is this person Krishna or not? So that is why he's known as Parikshit. Or it's also known Paratara Ikshanam. Ikshanam is to see, and he sees everywhere. Is that Krishna? Is that Krishna? Or he's trying to find where that Krishna is. And Parikshit Maharaj's entire life is great because his birth discusses more about Krishna than him, about how Krishna protected him. And throughout his life, he spent his time following the principles of Krishna and upholding dharma. And to the end of his life, even his death, there's more talks about Krishna than himself. We hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. We know Parikshit Maharaj is the you could say protagonist, but we all know who's the real protagonist, and that is Krishna. And so Parikshit Maharaj has become a perfect via medium for Shukadeva Goswami to give us the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam and the summum bonum of what we need to know. So here we also, Prabhupada also touches upon or expands upon the word Ajita. And the very first word of the purport says the word Ajita is significant here. So, and Prabhupada is laying a lot of emphasis on how Krishna is unconquerable, especially one who's trying to use their own logic or an ascending process of knowledge gathering to know Krishna will never be able to do it because of the four defects that humans have. But only a descending process of knowledge gathering from a bona fide spiritual master can actually understand the true meaning of Krishna. So the third theme that Prabhupada talks about is Vijnata, or being understood. Yeah. So yesterday, as Vijay Prabhu was also saying, Gyan means it is knowledge, that is information. Vigyan is realized knowledge, and that is the only thing that persists. Because if you just have information about something, there is no reason for it to affect your life in an appreciable way. But if you have Vigyan or realized knowledge, you know that you have experienced something deeply enough, and that is why this knowledge has sprouted in your heart by the mercy of Guru and by the mercy of Krishna. So here Prabhupada is talking about a spiritual master like Shukadeva Goswami, unto whom the king gave himself up as a most humble disciple, one is able to understand the actual position of the Lord, his eternal abode, and his transcendental paraphernalia in the dham or abode. And the translation for the next verse, although we'll not be covering it today, is very apt for what Prabhupada is mentioning here. The next translation is, this was so because who have dedicated their lives to the transcendental topics of the personality of Godhead, of whom the Vedic hymns sing, and who are constantly engaged in remembering the lotus feet of the Lord, do not run the risk of having misconceptions even at the last moment of their lives. And this is the most redeeming factor of the Srimad Bhagavatam and also the eighth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that if we dedicate our current life to the service of the Lord and his devotees, then the last line says, they do not run the risk of having misconceptions even at the last moment of their lives. So their entire life gets filled with the bhakti that they've performed throughout their lives. And we've heard the verse multiple times about Ayur Harati Vai Pumsam Udyan Ashtanchayanasau Tasyatayat Kshanonita Uttama Shloka Vartaya. So the Srimad Bhagavatam says in the second canto that Ayur Harati Vai Pumsam, the lifespan of human beings are taken away or sapped or uh, taken away by what? Udyan Ashtancha Yannasau, the rising and setting of the sun. Except for Ayurvedic Vai Pumsam, Udyan Ashtancha Yannasau, Tasyarte Yat Kshanonita Uttama Shloka Varte, except one who has absorbed himself or herself in the vibrations of the holy name. And why is that? Why do we say that? It's because when the materialists spend their entire time in material engrossed in material endeavors, what happens is their mind is completely absorbed there, and the rising and setting of the sun takes them closer to their appropriate destination, which is death. But for a spiritualist who has Uttama Shloka Vartaya, who has engaged their life and almost their entire life in hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and hearing and serving the Bhagavat as it is, as the person Bhagavat, what happens to them? The rising and setting of the sun takes them closer to their destination, which is not death, which is closer to what they've been hearing about all their lives. So the sun is doing the same thing for two people, but it's taking them to very different destinations. For one, it's taking them closer to death. For another, it's taking them closer to what Prabhupada says here as the dham or the abode of the Lord. And that is exactly what Parikshit Maharaj was doing there. He got the information that he has 7 days to live, and he decided now it's perfect time for me to give up everything. He was the master of anything you could survey. He was a king among kings. So you would say king is Raja, or you'd say a saintly king is a Raja Rishi, but he was Samrat, he was an emperor. Emperor Parikshit Maharaj. He had everything anybody could ever aspire for. It is also said that sometimes even the demigods would feel that Parikshit Maharaj was a very prolific king. And they may have felt jealous about how he was able to uphold dharma in Kali Yuga, during the beginning time of Kali Yuga, and had a perfect kingdom. And everybody would take him as inspiration. That Parikshit Maharaj was able to give up everything. And as we've seen the analogy that the Srimad Bhagavatam gives, he was able to give it up as though it was just as one would give up stool. They would never look back. And Parikshit Maharaj gave up everything, and he didn't have to think. He didn't have to, make a will. He didn't have to get the lawyers to make a, what do you call that? Not escrow. It's called a trust or something. Trust fund. Yeah, he didn't have to make any trust fund. He didn't have to write a will that, oh, this son of mine will be the next king. He didn't go to the queens and tell them, oh, I'm sorry, I will have to leave now. He didn't do anything. He just switched garments, and that's it. 7 days he spent there. And what is even more amazing to realize is he garlanded Shamik Rishi with the snake because he was thirsty. He was hunting and he reached the ashram of Shamik Rishi, and at that point he realized that he did not get any water, as Keshav Swami Maharaj was saying, that one who comes as a guest in Hindi or Sanskrit is called Atithi, and Tithi is an allocated period of time. A Tithi is one who comes at an unallocated time, a period of time. And he came as an Atithi to Shamik Rishi's ashram, And over there, he was not offered sweet words, water, or even a place to sit. And so, out of some maybe frustration, he garlanded the sage with the dead snake that was there, which is wrong, yes. But at that time, he was very thirsty, and he was unable to conquer his thirst at that point. And this was a very material situation because his thirst was a material thirst. But as we see in Canto 10, chapter 1, verse 13, Shukadev Goswami is actually amazed that Parishit Maharaj has been sitting here for, at that point, maybe close to 4.5 days. He's been sitting there with no food, no water, and he didn't blink, as we saw Naimish Aranya. And not Naimish Aranya. So he did not blink. He did not take food. He did not take any water, and he never felt any thirst. So Shukadev Goswami is actually, pleasantly impressed by Parikshit Maharaj. And then Parikshit Maharaj himself tells that because of my vow at the verge of death, I have given up even drinking and water. Yet, because I'm drinking the nectar of topics about Krishna, which is flowing from the lotus mouth of your lordship, my hunger and thirst, which are extremely difficult to bear, cannot hinder me. And Parikshit Maharaj is saying, because you have given me something that quenches the ultimate thirst, which quenches any kind of material thirst anybody could have, by giving me the spiritual nectar of Krishna. That is the reason I have never felt thirst in these days. And for the entire 7 days, he did not feel the thirst. What is science says that you cannot live for more than 4 or 4.5 days without water, because your body can only selectively absorb the water that is present in your blood and so on. Otherwise, it becomes too thick. So Parishit Maharaj was, you could almost say, it was at that time, maybe 4.5 days, when Shukadev Goswami asked this question. Because then the 10th canto begins, and then the 11th and 12th. And at that time, Parikshit Maharaj says, I feel no thirst. So he was completely nourished by the Krishna Katha that he was hearing with that intensity. And Shukadev Goswami himself also did not drink any water or eat any prasadam. In fact, he was continuously speaking. And we know, I'm barely going to speak for 20 minutes, and there's a glass of water for me here that Gaudakarna Prabhu has kindly kept. What to speak of Shukadev Goswami, who's speaking for 7 days without any water? So the question will arise, right? How come he didn't feel any thirst? And he himself says, you are listening with that eagerness that I feel even more eagerness to give you all the knowledge that I have on Krishna without any stoppage. So that's why even he did not drink any water. And this is the perfect example of hearer and speaker. And this is the relationship that everybody must follow. In 10.1.16, Shukadev Goswami himself says, 3 kinds of people are purified by attending Katha, Bhagavad Katha. He said, the speaker. Speaker is most purified. So thank you for this opportunity. I feel like I'm getting purified. And the one who asks a question, inquisitive, they are in the, all of them are purified. But if there's a, let's say, a hierarchy of who's purified more, the speaker is purified more because they need to really embody or learn the philosophy in order to present it. The question, inquisitive person gives 100% proof that they did not, fall asleep during the class and they heard, and that's why they have a question. And they also deliberated deeply on the topics that were spoken. And then the third category of people who are purified are the people who are listening. Hearing is actually Shruntam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana. Punya, it's the greatest benefactory activity one can perform. Punya Shravana Kirtana, hearing from the sages. And here we see Shukadev Goswami as being the bona fide spiritual master, instructing Parikshit Maharaj. And he says, just flowing from the lotus mouth of your lordship, my hunger and thirst, which are extremely difficult to bear, cannot hinder me. We also see another example in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam about another devotee of the Lord who gives up something very important for and he understands this is the Lord's will and gives it up. And that is Dadichi Muni. He gives up actually Indra wanted to make a thunderbolt that can kill Vritraso. So he asks Dadichi Muni for his bones. Dadichi Muni is also, he's a, say a fun Muni. He also plays along with the joke. He says, Why would you need my bones? It is part of my body. I cannot give it to you. And Indra is a little dejected. Well, I really need it for something material. I need to kill a devotee of the Lord, and I need to make a thunderbolt. So please give me your bones. And then Dadichi Muni, he didn't have any. He knew this was the plan of the Lord, and he had no qualms. He didn't hold back in any way, and he gave his life. And so the bones were used to make the thunderbolt that Indra used to kill Vritrasura in a very different way. He went inside Vritrasura and then took 100 years, 100 celestial years to break open the body of Vritrasura. By then, he had already been liberated. That's aside from the point, but Dadichi Muni was willing to see that the Lord wanted something to happen, and he was willing to be the perfect via medium of giving up his body, material body. So here, that is what the last line of the verse says: Gangayam swam kalevaram. Um, Gangayam on the bank swam his own Kalevaram material body. He gave up his, Parikshit Maharaj gave up his material body without thinking twice about any of the other material responsibilities he may have had. Here we also see the word Ajita is significant because Prabhupada lays a lot of emphasis on how he's unconquerable in every respect. No one can know his actual position. He's unconquerable by knowledge also. And we know from the Damodar Leela pastime that he may be Ajita, but he may be what we call Ugram Viram Mahavishnu. He's the bold, angry, Viram brave, and Maha large, all-encompassing Vishnu, who breathes, and then there are many universes created from his inhalation and exhalation. He's Ugram Viram Mahavishnu, but when he comes in contact with the pure love of his devotees, all of those three, you could say, upadhis or those epithets that he gets are gone away. He becomes Anugram, Aviram, and Lagu Vishnu. His Ugram goes away. He sees Mother Yashoda and he gets so frightened and he runs away. He's not Viram also. He runs and he's afraid to look. And then we also see in the uh, in the prayers we sing during Kartik, the Damodar Ashtakam, in that it says Atanka Netram. Atanka is terrorist. I mean, Atankwadi is terrorist. Atanka is terror. There was terror in Damodar's eyes when Mother Yashoda was chasing him with a stick. So where is his Viram? His Viram is also gone. He's not Ugram, he's not Viram, and he's certainly very, very small. Mother Yashoda is a towering figure in front of Damodar. So all his upadhis, epithets are taken away by one who can conquer him. So Prabhupada is saying he's unconquerable in every respect. No one can know his actual position. He is unconquerable by knowledge also. But by the pure love of his devotees, he becomes conquered. And he gives himself completely to those devotees. There's also a pastime in the Gopal Champu that is mentioned where Balram is having some fun with Krishna, and he tells Krishna that actually this is something that I've tried to. I'm not gonna lie. I've told my sister that she was adopted. She's a younger sister. I've told her as a joke that she was adopted because she doesn't know. Obviously she wouldn't know anything about me because I was born before it. So similarly, Balram, although he's elder brother, Krishna looks up to him. When Krishna was 2.5 years old, Balram comes to Krishna and tells him that, hey Krishna, do you know something? You were adopted. And Krishna he's surprised. What do you mean? We have mother and father here. Why do you say that? And Krishna believes whatever Balram says, and he's unwilling to believe that he's adopted. So he asks for a little more information. And Balram says, you see Mother Yashoda, she's so fair. You look at Baba, he is also very fair. You see, I am also very fair. But you, Krishna, you are bluish black in color. You are beautiful, but you are bluish black in color. So clearly, you are adopted. He tells Krishna, and then Krishna starts to weep. He starts to the tears falling from his eyes that he cannot fathom that he was adopted. And Balram continues further. You know, Baba went to the market to get some vegetables, and then he saw you placed there in a basket. And out of pity, he just brought you here. So you're adopted. You're an orphan. That's what. And Balram tells Krishna three things that is actually true. He says, we don't know where you came from. We don't know when you were born, and we don't know who your parents are. And this is all completely true because the Supreme Lord is unborn. He was he may take birth in the form of for a Leela purpose, but he is always eternally unborn. And no one knows where he came from. No one knows when he was born because there is never a time where he never existed. So all of these are true, and they are something deep that we should deliberate upon. But these are the pastimes that they may have some you can say a bait that is a little bit fun and endearing, but it also has a deep lesson that we must take from it. So that is the ajita, or the position of the Lord as being unconquerable. Utsrijya Sangam, that is the first. Oh yeah, giving up the material body as though it were stool, that is Utsrijya Sarvataha Sangam. After leaving aside the association of everything around him, Parikshit Maharaj took to the hearing of Bhagavatam for 7 days. And this is sometimes very difficult to do. We have examples here who have given their best years of their life to the service of Srila Prabhupada's mission. Offer my obeisances to you, devotees. It is very difficult to leave the association of material pursuits and endeavors, and deeply respect that. Now it begs the question about. Oh yeah, I also want to touch upon Narada Muni, because he's like this transcendental spaceman who occurs in every canto of the Bhagavatam, and he has very unique interactions with different devotees. But anybody who comes in contact with him, their life is completely transformed. So we see when we had Mother Kayadu, who was supposed to be, who Indra wanted to kill Mother Kayadu because of who was in her womb, the son of Hiranyakashipu. And at that time, Narad Muni came there, and he told Indra that you must not do this because the person in the womb of Mother Kayadu is a devotee of the Lord. And Narad Muni was the one who gave her protection in his cottage at that point in time. And then he narrated all the knowledge that would be required to Mother Kayadu. And actually, Mother Kayadu fell asleep, but there was still somebody nodding their head and listening to everything. Shrunutam, he was hearing from Narad Muni. And then we have the transcendental Prahlad Maharaj being born. We see the example of Valmiki. He was so sinful that he couldn't utter the name of Lord Ram. He was trying to say Ra, Ra, but the whole name of Ram never came in his mouth. So Narad Muni said, okay, you say the syllables in reverse. Say Mara, Mara, Mara. And then he said that, and then he was able to say, when it was close enough, it became Ram. And then that completely transformed Valmiki to the level that he wrote the Ramayana that we all have benefited immensely from. We see the example of Nallakuvera and Manigriva, who were intoxicated and naked in a very holy place, and just coming in contact with Narad Muni, they received a curse, seemingly cursed, but it was actually a blessing. And it was not even disguised. It was in the courtyard of where Krishna would be playing, and Krishna would climb on the trees of the Yamalarjun trees, and he would play with Balaram and all of his other Gopa associates. And finally, we see in the Damodar Leela, he was the one who liberated them. And what is fun to realize here is everybody may think it's either Narada Muni's mercy that led to Manigriva and Nallakuvera to be liberated, or they may think that it is Sri Krishna's mercy that they were liberated. But actually, it was Mother Yashoda whose mercy liberated Nallakuvera and Manigriva. It was because Mother Yashoda was the first person to tie Krishna and to make Krishna realize what it feels like to be bounded. And the first activity Krishna did when he realized that being bound to the grinding mortar is so painful and deprives one of their freedom that the first activity he did after being bound was to liberate Nalakuvera and Manikriva. So the Ajita became conquered by Mother Yashoda's pure Vatsalya Bhav, and that induced him, in a way, also part of his own sweet will, to free Nalakuvera and Manikriva. And that shows that just a few moments association, chastisement or curse from a bona fide spiritual master can completely transform one's life. We see the case of Mrigari. We also see the case of Mrigari was also told to offer worship to Tulsi Maharani. And we also see the case of Haridas Thakur, who we sing it during whenever there's a festival that Tulsi Dalamatrena Jalasya Chulukenava. That verse was what Haridas Thakur told the prostitute. That was his instruction to the prostitute to offer worship. Jalasya Chulukenava. Just offer little water to Tulsi Maharani. Tulsi Dalamatrena Jalasya Chulukenava. That alone is sufficient to purify you. And she became the one of the topmost Vaishnavis of that entire time, contemporary time. And that shows that association with someone who's a bona fide spiritual master can completely transform one's life, as we see here in the case of Parikshit Maharaj. And one interesting thing Jeshpur was asking me about the fifth canto was, well, why would Parikshit Maharaj want to know about the hellish planets? What is the use for that? There's so much nectar that's remaining later on. What could possibly be the reason why Shukadeva Goswami talks about the lineage and then talks about who the kings were before Parikshit, and then talking about the different hellish planets. He's never going to go there. What is the use of that information? Right? So Chetan Charan Prabhu mentions in one class that these are some of the topics that Parikshit Maharaj has studied before as part of his training to become a king. He has studied cosmology. He studied the different, and so you could say, histories of his forefathers who have, you could say, upheld a lot of upheld dharma, and he knows from where he has come and the generation of kings who he's representing at that point in time. So it gives him even more responsibility to take what he's doing even more seriously. And also, we know that one who follows bhakti to the, you could say, the best degree, as in the case of Prahlad Maharaj, we've heard there are lineages of forefathers and future generations who are liberated. And Parikshit Maharaj can deeply deliberate on these points and hear with even more, you could say, deeper engagement. He can engage his senses completely and more deeply because he knows, oh, my forefathers also depend on this point in time. That if I am hearing with the greatest of intent, then not just my case, I may or may not be liberated. Actually, he was in the liberated platform because he was already in the liberated platform even before the 10th canto was spoken, because he never felt any material miseries at all. That would intensify his hearing so that he knows that his forefathers also need to be liberated and it depends on him. And then they may otherwise go to the hellish planets. So that's a reason why those topics are also discussed. And they are topics that Parikshit Maharaj has heard before. And I just wanted to maybe close down a little bit. Yeah, there are a few verses. There's 12, 12, 50. Wanted to cover that. Maybe I'll just go over the translation, not too deep into the purport. So 12, 12, 50 of the Bhagavatam, it says, those, okay, maybe I'll just read those. Tad eva ramyam ruchiram navam navam, tad eva shashvan manaso mahotsavam, tad eva shokarnava shoshanam nrinam, yat uttama shloka yasho nugiyate. The translation is, those words describing the glories of the all-famous personality of Godhead are attractive, relishable, and ever fresh. Indeed, such words are a perpetual festival for the mind, and they dry up the ocean of mercy. And we started this discussion about how the sun saps away our life, and how the nourishment of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the one that takes us closer, not to death, but closer to Krishna's abode. And it is the Srimad Bhagavatam which is always ever fresh. we may be covering verse by verse, and sometimes the topics overlap, and sometimes we may even cover the same point multiple times in the class. But each time we hear it, we can feel it in a slightly different intonation because how Srimad Bhagavatam itself is ever fresh, but it's also because we have grown in realization. We've at least heard more on the same topic, even if we hear the same verse. So we see that there's an example of okay, I forgot his name, but he spoke on the 10th canto of the the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the same verse for 10 days in a row, and each day he was able to give a very different um, interpretation, even though he assumed he was speaking the same words, but the audience got something completely different from it. I will talk about that in maybe a different class. Lastly, I wanted to also cover one thing where Majjit, okay, Gyan and Vigyan. Okay, maybe I will stop here. We have only a few more minutes. I would like to hear realizations, questions, and most importantly, corrections so that I may improve in my presentation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you, dear devotees. Hare Krishna.
I really like the example of Parikshit Maharaj, how he felt thirsty when he went for hunting. And that's why he put a dead snake around the neck of Shankrishi. But while hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, he didn't feel that hunger and thirst for 7 days, which is extremely difficult to bear. And because of that, Shukdev Goswami also did not eat and drink. That is the enthusiasm of his hearing. So I have also heard in one of the classes that when we are distributing books, actually it depends upon the quality of the listener also. Sometimes we don't know how we are speaking something. It's actually this listener who is more eager to know. So Krishna makes us a via media to give that knowledge, even though we don't have those kind of realizations because the listener is so eager to know. So Krishna makes us a via media, so that's how book distribution purifies us by by giving mercy. That's amazing.
I can see that right here, bro. Like you, Anuswar Prabhu and Vijay Prabhu are right here. I may be speaking some broken thing, but Krishna may hopefully make me a via medium to get you to realize something different. So that would be great. I remember when you were giving Bhagavatam class in San Diego, Dravida Prabhu was sitting right in front of you. There was nobody else closer, and he was listening to everything you were saying, right? So, yes, bro.
I think at the end of Kartik, there's 5 days where there's just no water. So you mentioned that scientifically they said that four it could last like 4.5 days.
Something without water, yes.
Yeah, but that's actually part of Kartik. I only know of one devotee that did it, and yet he was the last day. I was bathing the deities in the temple, and he was in the temple room, and he collapsed. He fell on the floor. I'm like, oh my god, man. He got up and he was able to make it, but no energy. No energy. But yeah, that's part of Kartik for some staunch followers of.
Oh, the Bhishma Panchak.
Yeah.
Oh.
Last 5 days, no water, no food. But not many people are able to do it for practical reasons. It's not easy. I don't think he ever did that again.
Oh.
But yeah.
I was just reflecting on one point you made. The sage who was willing to give his bones, I'm forgetting.
The Dadichi Muni.
Dadichi Muni, yeah. As long as Ravina Samiraj also narrates that pastime many times in his lectures. One thing I've been thinking about more recently is one who desires to go to the spiritual world must be ready to die materially. That because if you go to the spiritual world, everything that is here existing around you, it must not be important. Because if it's important to you, then you are certainly going to stay. Or how can Krishna give you that if you're not really ready to give all these things up around you? So it was very significant. The point you were making was that he was ready to give up his material body completely and just fully be in spirit. And it just kind of it just kind of re-emphasized that point that I was thinking about, and just reflecting on how to even come to that point is very difficult. But yeah, just
It's
reminded me.
Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj in his book, he says you need to die before
Yeah,
you really.
exactly.
That's the
Same idea.
Oh,
principle.
yes.
Die before you die.
Yeah.
That's
And
really.
many brahmacharis also, like I was talking with the Chaitanya Prabhu, when you take to brahmacharya, you're especially like you see devotees in Chopati or Pune temple, like they're cut off from the outside world almost to a certain extent. You essentially die materially. So this process of brahmacharya or any of these things are basically giving that process to you in a more systematic format.
That's part of sannyas. You're civilly dead. You're off the grid.
Yeah.
Wow,
But
that's-
not with our ISKCON sannyasis.
Thank you for sharing, bro.
Sorry, it's a heavy thought, but I just
No, it's
when
very
you said
important.
that, it reminded me of that thought.
Yeah, if we have attachments, then we'll come back. It's true. Thank you, bro.
Not all the ISKCON sannyasis.
Yeah.
Some of them are completely off the grid. And
Yeah.
some are on the grid. Yeah.
Ventrad Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Panchakalpatarupyascha.
अनंतकोटि वैष्णववृंद की
जय।
श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Jai.
जय प्रभु की जय।
जय।